It's okay. Yes. Hello. Hello. Testing. All right. So, oh, the calibration. My mouth is. I'm a mouth breather. Uh, uh, huh? Nope. Huh? Yes? No? Okay, that's better. So, welcome to Garbage Pandas Python GUIs. I really like this little guy, so I think I'm gonna keep him. I really, really like. That's the one. Okay. So hopefully I'm getting the streaming process down. And I'm finding a pretty decent method here for me. I like to record live and then I take it and then condense the content into a video. So you're gonna see me do lives pretty often. I just cannot see. Yeah, I think it's fine. If I'm looking this way, I'm looking at you, right? It's calibrated correctly, right? Okay. So I'm pretty happy with streaming what I want to do, whether it's gaming. Well, gaming, there's no real worth in editing. Um, but I like to stream what I'm doing, and then after it uploads, I'm probably gonna take it, cut it up, and make it into a more bite-sized, um, informational, hopefully 15 to 30 minutes. This is probably gonna be about an hour. So anyway, what are we doing? Well, we're going to learn how to make GUIs because that was the biggest thing in my life that changed it. And for anyone, GUI is a graphical user interface. Basically, everything you see here is a graphical user interface. Now, I'm no professional at GUIs, so we're going to be using M. Fitzp, this guy, Martin Fitzpatrick. Cool name. He's got a set of basically some pretty good ways we can start. My way of learning things is I read about them, I watch some videos, and then I dive into all the different ways I can put something together. Specifically, we're going to go through a lot of the PySide 6, so you can see I already have them set up here. And I don't know how long we're going to go. Is it going to be organized and professional? Probably not. Uh, but let me just open MainPy. All right. And we begin. So, as a developer, I've always been more of a backend, algorithms, computer science based, right? Computer science, they didn't teach you anything about how to make GUIs. They just did, hey, you can make a sorting algorithm and get all the bubble sorts and all the ways you can put the datas in certain places to make them efficient to go through. Cool. But how do I make an application? So I kind of left university without any knowledge of anything other than mathematical algorithms, which to its own effect is pretty nice. It's the more difficult thing to understand. So I do a lot of Python analysis and data analysis on stocks trading. I don't do automatic trading, I do manual trading, but I do the analytics through Python. I have a couple of different formulas that I use, including the Markowitz formula, the Markov chain, and other ways that I basically use data sheets, Excel formats, import them, parse them, clean them up, spit out information that's interesting for me, and so on and so forth. So everything like that can be basically done through a command prompt, which is this little sucker down here. So you pick the file, you import it, and then it converts the file back into another file with more clean data. But I've recently been diving into GUIs. Yes, GUIs, very gooey GUIs. So what I first do anytime I'm analyzing is I take apart all the pieces, or not apart, but what's the word I'm looking for? Collapse. I collapse all the pieces, kind of get a bird's eye view, After that, I'll probably take each one of the internal pieces, collapse them. So this is only one function. This one has a couple of functions. And right now, if you haven't seen the header name here, oh, well, that's just main. That's not going to help. I've opened up the browser plugin, the browser dialog, the browser GUI. We can take a look at what it looks like here. Running the browser. This is a Python add-on, just so everyone kind of gets an idea, anyone interested. It's the language support, but I think it's also another Pylance, maybe? Python deep. Oh, I have so many Python things. I'm not sure. I think it's the language support, intelligence, formatting, unit tests. It's one of these. I'm not sure which one, to be honest, but I feel like it's the top one. Python debugger, debug Py. No, that's just a thingy. Performance rich feature server. Oh no, it's a server. So yeah, it's got to be the Python here. Um, Once you install it, it should give you that little. Well, once you're in the file, in a Python file, you see the run with all its individual options. But you can just press that button. However, maybe, and this is a case too for being a developer. I have to probably allow this window to run. Yep, there it is. I recommend. I mean, it is a hassle to have to allow every single custom application to run, but it's also a lifesaver because your security is working as properly as it should. Let me close these other terminals, start from scratch. There we go. So there's your typical browser. Cute, isn't it? And this is a custom browser in Python. I'm not sure the full support of it, but we're gonna go through some details and maybe figure out reload, forward, back, file, open file, save pages. Oh, that's cool. Cool. So this is the code being ran now, and the GUI in itself we're using Qt. It's very cute. T, get it? Oh yeah, it's cute. Am I looking down all the time? Is this panda looking down also at the same time? It's kind of useless to me. Hold on. Let me calibrate a little bit. Better. Huh. Okay. That's slightly better. Um, so Qt is actually, let's take a look at it because I used to play around with Linux a lot. Qt is a very lightweight graphical interface. Um, and I believe it started within, yeah, there it is, within the Linux environment. KDE, GNOME, Qt, and GUI toolkits, libraries developed to use design. But there's basically a caveat. So, like, KDE is the heavy set. It's got a lot of graphical pizzazz, if you will. It's not available for Windows, I'm pretty sure, but it is for Linux. But it was very graphic intensive. You can think of like Windows Vista. I liked it, but whenever I installed it on a pretty crappy system, it would be the biggest resource hog. GTK didn't do too much with it. GNOME was pretty nice. I did like GNOME. Very middle point. Not too graphically advanced, but at the same time, not too heavy. No, I don't want to update that. So, Qt is actually one of the ones I started with. Well, technically, all right. Technically, my graphical user interface experience has actually been with HTML. For anyone that's not familiar, actually, we can actually test that too. For anyone that's not familiar with HTML, basically starts like this, HTML, and you close it with HTML. The nice thing about HTML was that all the code that I would do, or we would do within the file console.log, that's the one, would be within the same file. So this is kind of how I started to learn GUIs. Uh, Basically coding it within the same file. So I was like, oh, cool. First and foremost, this is more of an XML format, technical sense. Now you gotta name this as an HTML so the system knows what kind of file to parse it as. And then if I wanted to open this file, it's not gonna work. I can do a copy path. I believe I can open, right? I can also just do it here, actually. Here, there. Nope. I can't open up local? No, 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 no. I'm sure it can. I'm sure it can. I'm sure it can. Pi side 6. No. What do you mean? That's what. Oh, wait. Right. Demos. What? Wait. Wasn't I here? Demos browser. Oh, I'm so far. That's so close. Wait, now I can't see, I still can't see it. So what kind of file are you looking for? Just HTML or HTML? I saved it as an HTML. What are you talking about? Okay, well, I guess this browser is not so crazy, so that's a cool test to see if the browser can actually read local files. Turns out it cannot. So I'll open up a new file or a new actual browser, and I'll do the same thing. So the biggest thing to get from what a GUI is the ability to create a layout and customize the viewpoints of it. That's it. That's really it. Um, of course, this is a super simple example, but the fact that we're changing the visual appeal does basically change the design of the GUI. There's a lot more complication to this. However, you notice this part here. This is where we kind of focus on when we do programming. Not, okay, so let me call it back-end programming, not front-end. GUI side. So the front end is what you see as a user, back end is what's running in the background. So this didn't really pop up anywhere. That's because in an HTML file, you go to the actual console, and that's where this pops up. So this is the back end, and this is called JavaScript, and then the rest of here is actually HTML. So the way I started learning GUIs was basically considering that the GUI, the HTML/XML style programming, was written in the same file next to the backend programming. And then the caveat is further, because this is client programming on the browser side, there's PHP and other side programs or side network systems servers, if you will, that run on a different location. But for the simplest sense of things, we have the backend here as a console log function, and then we have an XML styled document structure. And then we can do borders, we can do shades, shadows, we can do animations, all kinds of stuff. But in the end, this is how I began my adventures with GUIs. And eventually you go to something like fathomcomputing.com, my website, and you end up with some fanciness that you can basically custom program. This is a little search bar, but it's also highly programmed with extra functionality in the backend. That little red border here to grab attention is basically HTML and CSS or even JavaScript jumping in and changing some design stuff. All the emotions you'll see, this is actually an, uh, what was it called? Some frame something. I forget the name of it, but basically it's from another website called Kaspersky. And basically, you can take a frame from another website and import it here. But all the animations that you would see are respect to HTML and oh, what's this? Okay, that's LinkedIn. Good. Oh, I gotta change some of this stuff, don't I? Where's where's this it? Yeah, take lessons is down. It's gone forever now. Anyway, um, this is how I started with, and I'm not perfect with GUIs. Don't consider me a professional in any way or form, but this is a good kind of starting point to kind of play around and see how a document sheet or document styled script can interact with a backend programming script. You can actually connect these. We're not talking about HTML and CSS, however, or JavaScript for that matter. This is just a prime example of how I began, and probably the best case to start with when you're doing any sort of designing or starting to go from how I began with backend algorithms and console programs that you would be like, oh, you have an employee and he's worked this many hours. Please write a program that inform the employee how many hours they have left or whatever. Some silly examples you get from university. What we're going to focus on is the actual programming aspect of the bigger picture. In order to create that GUI, the HTML quote unquote, it comes technically from a already built system, which somebody else built. Qt is that quote unquote HTML for us, the front end. Now we do control it completely from Python, the back end. So we have a couple of methods we have to go through in order to make a dialog box. Let's take this apart here. Do I have my Epic pen? Yay. Where's my Epic pen? Epic pen. Hello? There you are. So we've got these little buttons that are independent pieces we're about to find in the code, I imagine. Well, you can kind of see it here. There's the open, but it's in the menu, so it's not that one. But we'll find all the little pieces. But we have those little buttons. We have a file. Whoa, buddy, that's a big one. We have a file. Okay, that's not big enough. We got a file button, the help button, the URL input. There's an input text field. The browser window space, and we might even just go through this one because I feel like this is going to take more than an hour to observe through the code because looking at the amount of code in there. So if there's a good response to this video, then and we've got a tab browser to go through, a calculator to go through, a camera, color picker, cryptocurrency, media player, Minesweeper, notepad. We got a lot of things that we can disassemble. What I call this is like programming surgery. We're taking apart these files, and that's how we're going to see how, at least in a professional sense, somebody has put it together. Hopefully, that the quality of the code is professional. How's my raccoon panda doing? Hold on. Yep. All right. Yeah. Mouth. Good. Is my nose being tracked? That's weird. Computers are crazy. Okay. Wait. Let me move you over here. Okay. So we have plenty to go through, and if people enjoy this video, leave a like, subscribe, and we'll go through a lot more on the process. But at least in this case, it's not too complicated. We got about 6, 7, 8 different assets that we're going to be setting up within the coding space. Now, there's a key for the visual aspect of this, and then there's the functionality behind what happens when we click those buttons. Should I keep that open? No, I'll keep that open. There. Where you go? Okay. Okay. Let's just do it for the funsies. Let's see if YouTube works. Can I play a video on this? Does it have a video codec? Tell me it's got a built-in video codec. Ooh, does it? Does it? Does it? Can I view video? No. What? No? No, it does not. Oh. Whoa, it has video. That's pretty intense. Kind of. Okay. Yeah, it does. It actually plays. It has a built-in. Okay. So why am I confused that this plays videos? Well, for the main case scenario, is that normally HTML is the purest form that can be parsed, meaning that HTML is this text. You need video codecs and all kinds of other underlying factors to play those. So I'm assuming already from the get-go, the reason we can play videos is because this QWeb engine view that's being imported from PyQt6 is already built with the ability to handle web content, including videos, potentially more HTML5 level videos rather than like an MP4 or something like that. So that's cool. And in that case scenario, this is a pretty big package. We're not going to go into how this works, but this solves a lot of things for us. And as a programmer, you know that when things are solved for you, there's underlying factors that are out of your control. So as good as QWeb engine is as good as your browser is going to be. But so far, I'm kind of surprised. It does previews and everything. That's cool. God, AI created slop content. What's the point? Anyway, so generally speaking, importing in this format in Python, and in most cases, we're essentially importing SYS and in that same scenario using the keyword SYS to access system options. We're going to see them throughout the dialog processes. OS, similar factor. We're just using the OS keyword to access OS based functions and abilities. And then inside of PyQt6, we have independent pieces. So why not just do import PyQt6, right? If all of these contain PyQt6, why not just import the whole thing? Well, that can be done. However, you're probably going to import things and libraries that are going to make your application bigger and you're never going to use because we're kind of given a boilerplate of stuff we're using currently. Q size for the side of the window, Qt for some Qt stuff we're going to see, QURL to handle URL formats, I'm sure. Q key sequence. Ooh, this is actually gonna maybe is it if I press yeah, I pressed enter for that. So maybe I can find a better way to listen to the keyboard because I made my own way, but I think it's a little sloppy. QPixMap probably to render images. Q shortcut, not sure. We'll find out all of these in the process and QWeb engine. So you can technically access them, but then if you wanted to go to the QWeb engine, anytime you wanted to do that in your code, let's say we have a class and you wanted to access PyQt web engine, you would have to literally do pyqt6.qt web engine widgets dot q web engine view to actually use this instead of having it as a shortcut already. So it's kind of a convenience factor. PyQt6 right now is not being imported because I took it off, but if I do PyQt6, you'll notice the blue underline is gone now. So now that it knows that we are importing the whole thing, which also means we're importing every single library in this set, even if we're not going to be using certain things, which just makes your application much bigger when you decide to compile it, which actually we should go through at some point too. Um, yeah, maybe at the end of this I'll do a compiling, but we'll see. We'll see. Or I'll make a whole video on how to do it on the side. So now that I removed it, it's going to be like, hey, what is that? What is PyQt6? Even though we're writing it multiple times here, the from keyword is actually specifying, I want this that is inside. So I want Qt core that's inside of PyQt6. And from that, I want to import QSize, Qt, and QURL. So all of these technically exist inside of Qt core, which itself exists inside of PyQt6. And then PyQt6 again as a whole has multiple modules inside. So we can import the whole thing like we did here earlier. However, we can also specify independent pieces that we want to import, which simplifies things. Simplifies it in the way that we can actually one use shortcuts now instead of having pyqt6.qtcore.qsize. I just write qsize. That's it. And instead of pyqt6 qtcore qt, I just write qt. So in the end, it actually is a lot more simpler to do. If you don't know where you're beginning or ending, you might start with a pyqt6 overall, import pyqt6, and that's it. And then you're building it just so you don't have to like do all these independent pieces because maybe you don't know what pieces you will need. But over time, uh, I'm still learning, honestly. So I'm gonna install upon you what I know, which is pretty decent. I made my own application with the Face Llama Qt. So all of this was kind of from, give or take, from a template, but I modified a lot of stuff, added extra stuff, added key checkboxes, functions that work on the AI parsing, queries, key press events. This is the way I actually handle my events. So there's a lot of things that I customized from that beginning set. So as I'm learning, I'm also applying some things that I'm not learning from a template. I'm just using a template as a starting point so I know where I can begin because I haven't constructed one of these from the scratch before. But I'm also continuously surgically taking these apart so I can learn more about them. Now, as far as a Qt dialog, this is a separate window from the main window. So this basically defines what the window would look like. It's like one of those pop-up windows that have a OK and close. So you have a OK button, the accept, and a close button here. But I'm not sure where that pops up anyway. Where does that pop up? Print? Can I print stuff? Did you mean print? No attribute print under. Oh, that crashed. Nice. Superb. I'm not even sure where that pop-up's coming from, to be honest. Help? About Moose? Hey, there's your pop-up. Really? Where's the other one? Homepage? Python GUIs. Cool. I'm gonna assume the accept, self-accept is the OK, self-reject is the little X there, depending on how it's being attached, right? So we're gonna ignore this little window, but we are gonna look at the main window. Now, every Python, not every Python, but whenever, in this case, you do want to have it in it. This is the initialization function. Anytime this window is created, where does it get created? Well, it gets created here. This is technically useful, but not necessary. I like to use it because sometimes I make an application that imports a file from Python, but that file can also run on its own, like the Markowitz, for instance. If I go to my faves, uh, Markowitz original, let's do that one. So this file is kind of messy. It's just a bunch of functions, right? But in the end, there's that main, again, because this file can run on its own and it has specific function flows from that file running through the direct file. But then it has a new or has another functionality because I attached it to my Discord bot. And that Discord bot essentially has a set of user stocks that are being imported from Discord. And that then those values get parsed a little bit differently. But here, you will notice that this stocks is coming from somewhere else, not visible here. User stocks is coming from the Discord bot calling this file, Markowitz, and then running the file, or running that class that's being imported. I guess I should really show the Discord part of this too, shouldn't I? Where's my fat bot? This guy? Y Finance. There it is, right here. Oh, actually here. I think I did improve it, but yeah, this is what the old one looked like. I'd import, there's a sys again. Sys is for system. You're appending a specific file in your coding structure. And then from that file, I can import Markowitz file, which is the file we just observed. And then from there, I can call all the internal factors, including the run function. So in a kind of summary here, If name equals main just basically asks, hey, is this the original file, Python file being run? If it is, follow this specific process. If it's not the original file, aka through another imported format here, or in this one here really, then we have the other function that I've created so I can call it. It'll be markowitz.run. So when I use markowitz.run, which technically is gray right now because the old version of this file was using it, using markowitz.run would run literally the function here. And then in that format, I would have to input the array of user data.